So together we rise. I am going to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about our guest tonight, Dr. James Thompson. Dr. Thompson, he's been practicing for over 30 years in the Chicagoland area. He graduated from Washington University Medical School and he completed his residency at the University of Illinois Hospital and Clinic. He also completed specialty training in allergy and immunology at Washington University. And he recently became a certified integrated nutrition coach. Dr. Thompson also is really big on reducing the intake of meat, dairy, fish, and processed sugar and other processed foods. And guess what? Fast foods too, you guys. So he also got a book that's coming out. It should be published and out by March. Am I correct, Dr. Thompson?
Yes.
It'll be out by
Yes.
March. And I'm looking forward to it because it's going to have so many good things. It's called Fearless Wellness. And it's going to be on the Amazon platform as well as on his website and our website, healthylivingwithavision.org. So, without further ado, I give you my friend, Dr. Thompson.
All right. Thank you, Chanel, for the kind introduction. I'm going to see if I can use some technical savvy here to get my PowerPoint slide up. It looks like I have two options here. Hopefully I picked the right one. Okay, you should be able to see my screen, and I'm going to put it in presentation mode. Let's see if we can get going here. All right. So is it up? You can just nod. Okay, excellent. So, okay, good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. It's so exciting to kick off this 28-day program with all of you. It's a new year and possibly a new us, right? Or at least a better us, because I think we should aim for progress over perfection. And my mantra for this year is simple. Let's step into wellness and thrive in 2025. Because honestly, the last few years have felt more like we were just trying to survive. For those who don't know me, let me tell you how I ended up here in this world of broccoli, kale, and quinoa. I wasn't always a plant-based eating physician. But the other objectives are to discuss the what and why about plant-based eating and how to start. Now, my journey started with a religious fast over a decade ago. My church, Emmaus Community, located in the south suburbs of Chicago, started a New Year's Daniel fast, a 10-day spiritual cleanse that also happened to mimic a whole food plant-based diet. Let's just say that was the first shot across the bow. Because you see, by day 7, I noticed some changes. I had more energy, I slept better, I felt this mysterious sense of lightness. And no, it wasn't because I was levitating during prayer. Now, the following year, we stretched it to a 21-day fast. And that's when things got serious. My knees stopped barking at me every morning, which had been happening as a result of all the outdoor running I was doing for heart care, for heart health. My stomach reflux took a holiday, and my blood pressure meds started making me feel dizzy.
Mm,
Turns out I wasn't suddenly over medicated. I was getting healthier.
mm,
Now, a being curious and slightly skeptical type, I couldn't just chalk it up to prayer, though I'm sure it helped. I dove into nutrition research, and what I found was life changing. Healthy eating isn't just good for you, it's basically a cheat code for a better life. At that time, I was running 20 to 25 miles a week, meditating and avoiding caffeine, yet I still required 3 blood pressure medications and a cholesterol medicine to lower my cholesterol. But 6 months into going plant-based, fully whole food plant-based, the meds were history. Under my doctor's guidance, I was able to stop all of them. That was a wake-up call, and not
wow.
just for me. but for everything I'd been trained to believe as a doctor. You know, for decades, I'd been telling patients they would need to take their blood pressure medicine, their type 2 diabetes medicine, their cholesterol medicine forever, or at least for the rest of their life. And well, that actually forever part doesn't have to be that long if you change what's on your plate. The truth is, most conventionally trained doctors like me aren't taught the power of diet and lifestyle. We are not as skilled at finding the root causes and preventing diseases. So much of our training is really focused. So much of our training is really focused on
Here.
prescribing medications.
Yep.
As they say, a pill for an ill. But I'm happy to say that we're starting to see some change in this narrative, slowly but surely. Now let's warm up with a little self-reflection. Think about today. How many servings of fruit and vegetables have you eaten so far? A serving could be a cup of cooked greens, a half a cup of beans, 3 medium-sized broccoli florets, a lone banana or apple that was calling your name all morning. Take a moment to tally up and jot that number down. Don't worry, no judgment here, unless your total of fruit and veggies for today is zero, because perhaps you've only eaten these kinds of foods all day, in which case we might need to have a little one-on-one chat after this presentation. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. All right. If you are in double digits, congratulations. But for the rest of us, this is a great starting point. Here's the deal. Eating more than 4 servings of plant-based foods daily can add 3 to 4 years to your life,
Wow.
compared to those eating the standard American diet, which averages only about 2 servings of fruit and veggies. But why stop at 3 to 4 years when you can add 10 or more years, 10 or more quality years? You see, it's not just about living longer, it's about thriving while you're alive. When you combine a higher intake of plant-based food while removing highly processed foods, dairy, meat, you're not just adding years to your life, you're adding life to your years. This is what we call health span. The number of years you live free from chronic illness and taking lots, a long list of medications and having multiple surgical procedures and having endless visits to see doctors. Imagine being active and thriving in your later years instead of just existing. Here's why plant-based eating works. It reduces your risk of heart disease, strokes, diabetes, cancer, and even dementia. It's like a Swiss Army knife of diets. This is achieved by lowering your blood pressure when it's elevated, aiding in weight loss, supporting your immune system, improving the health of your gut microbiome and digestive processes, and providing antioxidants and other micronutrients that reduce or damage the function or structure of your DNA and proteins. And that's often what drives chronic inflammation and cancers. It also is a bit of a shield against some severe infections like COVID-19, especially when combined with appropriate vaccination. And it can reduce or prevent inflammation associated with certain autoimmune diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and ulcerative colitis. Increasing your fiber intake by consuming more plants leaves less room for the unhealthy stuff. That would be the highly processed foods that often contain potentially harmful additives like preservatives, dyes, emulsifiers, and taste enhancers, things that make them irresistible. They lack nutrients and tend to be high in salt, fat, and highly refined sugar. Now, let me show you what I mean by fiber and less room in your stomach. Fat, or oil, liquid form of fat, has 9 calories per gram compared to sugar and protein, which have less than half of that, 4 calories per gram. Now, if we have you consume 500 calories of oil, which is about 4 tablespoons of oil, any oil, it could be olive oil, sesame seed oil, canola oil, motor oil. Don't try motor oil, but all oil has the same number of calories per gram. That is so small, it hardly shows up in your stomach, as you can see to the left of the slide. Now, say we go to cheese. Let's say some.
You've
I'm,
moved
I'm
it,
being
Dr.
I'm being
Oh,
I'm
okay.
being muted. Yeah, I'm unmuting, but so I keep getting muted. Sorry. Um, so cheese, that would be about 6 to 7 slices of American cheese. That would be 500 calories. And you can see in that second from the left, it still hardly fills your stomach half full. Then we go to meat. So 500 calories of meat. We think meat is more filling, right? Well, 500 calories of meat, that's about a 6 to 7 ounce grilled steak. It still doesn't get you halfway there and filling your stomach. But look at what 500 calories of potatoes, beans, and rice does. I mean, it almost fills your stomach. And then if you go further to the right there and you just make a living on some fruit and veggies, which I'm not recommending, I think a more diverse diet is in store. But say you do, you just eat fruit and veggies. 500 calories of fruit and veggies is going to overfill your stomach. You won't have room for dessert or anything else, which may not be a bad thing. So you see, it's really about fiber and caloric density of food when it comes to fullness and weight loss or weight gain. Now, trying to advance the slide, it's not advancing. Let's see. Let's see if we can. Okay, there we go. Now, fiber is the MVP of plant-based eating. It is only made by plants. It slows fat and sugar absorption from the intestine. It feeds the gut flora, helping them to produce powerful postbiotics. These are some short chain fatty acid compounds that have far reaching benefits beyond the intestines. Fiber helps with regulating your digestion. But understand, there is no natural fiber in meat, fish, egg, dairy products, and many of the ultra processed foods that we consume. But there are saturated fats and cholesterol in the animal products. And let's not forget the potential financial benefit. The cost of medications and surgeries and frequent medical care adds up quickly. A plant-based lifestyle not only saves your health, but also in the long run can save your wallet. In the short run, too, with some know-how. So, what's the deal on whole food plant-based? What does that really mean? It's all about consuming foods as close to their natural state as possible. So, here's an example. You got to the far left an unprocessed apple. That's a completely whole food. But then you move there to the right and you have applesauce. It's been hacked up and pureed and sometimes some sugar added. And that's the next level, minimally processed. And then we get to the highly processed apple juice because all the fiber has been removed, plus some nutrients when you do that. And chemicals have been added to preserve it so it doesn't go rot on you in the store. And sometimes even some dye and more sugar. And we move a little further to the right, we have apple pie. I'm talking about that apple pie you find in the freezer or fridge in your market. That is loaded with even more additives and chemicals. Usually you look on the side on the label, it's like a paragraph of stuff, some you can't pronounce. It may even have some slices of real apple in it. And then we go to the far right there and we have the apple flavored gummy bear. Well, that's the ultra processed food that actually has often no apple. Now, here's some other examples. To the far right, we have potato chips and pretzels and adulterated popcorn. That could be your Chicago mix. And Cheetos. I figure some of you have probably eaten one or more of these addictive foods in the last 24 hours, but hopefully not as I'm speaking. Now, this slide reminds me to address the differences between vegan and eating plant-based. I want everybody here to leave this space knowing the difference. A vegan is not a diet-based issue. It's not the vegans. They're not following a diet. It's a social justice to avoid being a party to anything that connects to slaughtering, abuse, or exploitation of animals. So, in addition to restricting meat, egg, dairy, and even honey, leather products, cosmetics, and pills derived from animals, their secretions, or ongoing experimentation are also avoided. Whole food plant based overlaps greatly with vegan food choices, but it stops at the highly and ultra processed foods. You see, a vegan can enjoy some potato chips and Coca Cola and some Oreo cookies. They don't have any animal products, and not and be 100% vegan. Not very healthy, but they're still 100% vegan. But a whole person that's following whole food plant based is not going to eat the highly or or highly or ultra processed food. All right. Now, processed foods, especially processed meats, are the villains of the story, often packed with harmful fats, salt, sugar, and preservatives. Yes, those two, three strips of bacon can do you in. And I know that looks appealing to many of you. Honestly, it still does to me too. But as good as it may look and smell, it may come with a side order of colon cancer or other cancers. And it doesn't stop there, folks. High blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, kidney disease, they all can tag along for the ride. And we're not talking about just bacon. We're talking about hot dog, processed meat, hot dogs, salami, sausage, cold cuts. Oh, some hearts are being broken. What about dairy? Well, we don't want to forget dairy is the single largest source of saturated fat in the American diet, with cheese and ice cream and baked goods being the main offenders. With dairy, you get some unnecessary sugar, which 70% of adults around the world they struggle digesting. That would be lactose intolerance. Dairy is not good for the skin and increases risk for prostate, breast, and ovarian cancers. It's not an essential food. You can get your calcium from the greens. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, I can't live without some of these foods. But the truth is, you can't live well or very long with continuing to eat these foods. They're directly linked to increased risk of heart disease and diabetes and obesity and several cancers and more. So here's the setup. Over the next 3 to 4 weeks, well, let's just say next Tuesday, Dr. Ansel Johnson, founder and CEO of our foundation, you'll be hearing from him shortly, will talk to you about supporting eye health through food choices. The following Tuesday, I think that'll be February 4th, uh, Chef Dom, a top-rated culinary artist out of LA, I've known him for about 4 years now, will set the table with food prep strategies to make plant-based living easier. And on our last Tuesday, on February 11th, our very own Dr. Kim Battle Miller will wrap this up with a cooking demonstration, a live cooking demonstration to inspire your kitchen creativity. So, folks, you're not alone in this journey. And by the end of this series, we want to have you be prepared by having the tools, the knowledge, and the confidence to thrive in 2025 and beyond. So, let's dive in and start this exciting journey together. For the first week, make a list of plant based foods that you like, include about 15 or more foods, and try to have at least two or more members of each of the categories of the power plate that has four sections: the fruit, the vegetables, the legumes, that means beans, and the grains, whole grains. Now, for extras, throw in some herbs and spices, and as long as you're not allergic, some nuts and seeds that make good snacks. But don't overdo it if you're trying to watch your weight, the nuts and seeds. They have some healthier fats, but they're still calories. All right. This is just a sample of a decade ago, my list. At that time, I think I was 4 servings of fruit or vegetables, whole food daily. Now, this is my list. You can come up with your own list, but I just wanted to give you a sample. So start with finding out what your current serving size is in terms of the amount you eat per day, and you're going to build from that. Say if you start at if you start at 3 or 4 servings per day, or so let's say 3, then in one week when you do your shopping on over the weekend, and in one week you'll be going to 4, picking from your list. So plan to add at least one additional serving of plant-based food to your daily meals. So if you routinely have 3, remember, you'll just go to 4. You don't have, if you feel like motivated jumping up further, that's fine. Each week you will go up a serving. So by our final Tuesday, everyone should be consuming 4 more servings a day than when we started out. You don't have to count calories in this plan, but we do want you to count servings of plant-based food until it starts to come naturally. Thank you for being here and investing your time for better health. I'll end this presentation with a quote from Dr. Kim Williams, a vegan cardiologist that went from Rush Medical Center as head of the cardiology department to the University of Louisville. He's now their department head of medicine. And he was quoted to say, "I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want to have a hand in it." And I fully agree with him. And it starts with knowledge. Again, thank you for your attention. Now I will hand the mic back to our illustrious MC, Chanel.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. I got a lot out of that. I am going to go into my kitchen and try to really change up some things, but I know, as I always say to everyone, you can only do what's best for you. You know how people go to spin cycle classes and they want to go right in and just get on the bike and spin, 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 but you have to go according to what's good for you. But being healthy is something that we all should want to achieve as a higher good. Dr. Thompson gave us a lot of good nuggets to go away with. We got to work on making that list of those plant-based foods that we could change our diet up with. So let me see. I like ruffled chips. I guess I'm gonna have to try to eat an almond and drink more water, instead of having that Pepsi that I love to have. It can be done, but it starts with us and changing our mindsets. And then this way, we'll have a better outcome. I know that Dr. Thompson, you had wanted to talk about the tip that you wanted to give for this week.
Yes, each week we'll give a little nugget for you, a tip to walk away with. We'll do that each Tuesday.
Mhm.
Today's tip was just that you should become an expert label reader as you go through this journey of improving your health. And to that point, let's start with sodium. That's the tip. How to read whether or not you have too much sodium in your food. What's wrong with sodium? Well, it increases your risk of high blood pressure. It makes you hungrier, makes you eat more, makes you drink more. It's not good for your, weight gain. It can even lead overdoing sodium can increase your risk for gastric stomach cancer. So a number of things, reasons why you don't want to overdo with sodium. And processed food has lots of sodium in it. And so the way to look at, let's say, the way to look at it is always read labels, look for the sodium, and it's very simple. Look at the amount of sodium per serving and the amount of calories per serving. If the amount of sodium per serving exceeds the amount of calories per serving, put it back. Find another alternative. In other words, say you have a can of soup, Campbell's soup. Well, I shouldn't mention names. Some soup, and the soup says it has 400 400 calories per serving, and the amount of salt is say 600 calories per serving, 600 milligrams per serving. Now that seems like a lot of salt, but believe me, you can find that on the shelf, 600 milligrams and higher per serving. But the fact that it has if it says 400, and that's really high. Usually a can of soup won't even have that many calories per serving. But I just, for example, when the milligrams per serving is over the calories per serving, then it's very salty. So try to find something where the sodium per serving is lower than the calories per serving. That goes for bread and all kinds of other stuff too. Now, it's going to be difficult. Cheese is an animal product, it's loaded with sodium and fat. But say you're transitioning and you still want to get your most favorite, the most healthy cheese. Well, good luck. I spent hours before I went fully whole plant based looking for low salt cheese. Salt is inherent in cheese. That's how they deal with the fermentation process, halting it. So cheese and salt go together, not to mention the fat. So anyway, that's the tip. Read labels. I'll check. I wanted to keep this short because I wanted to have at least 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes for question and answer. So I'll toss the mic back to you, Chanel.
All right, thank you, thank you. Again, before we get into our questions and our answers, I wanted to let you all know that again, Dr. Thompson is publishing a book, and it's called Fearless Wellness. It's coming out in the next couple of months. It'll be on the Amazon platform as well as his website, which is fearlessmd21.com. And I'll put that in the comments, as well as it'll be on healthylivingwithavision.org, our foundation website. And it looks like Dr. Thompson is sharing his website now and giving you a little bit of a snippet of his book, which is under publication. So we're really, really proud of that. Really proud of you, Dr. Thompson, for all of your accomplishments and your achievements. And guess what? He just retired, so he's living that good life in California. So that's awesome. If anybody has any questions, why don't you go ahead and start putting them in the chat box? And I'm going to turn this over to our CEO and our founder, Dr. Ansel Johnson. Dr. Johnson, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you all very much. And again, I am so blessed and honored to be working with some phenomenal people like Dr. Thompson, our medical director, and you yourself, Chanel, who've been with us from the very beginning of this foundation. And I do want to take some time to recognize some of our board members that are on the line right now. Diane Powell, um, who else is on?
Dr. Wheeler,
Dr. Angela Wheeler, who is
Deb,
actually over our Speakers Bureau, Deborah Hurston, again, one of our original board members, and I think,
Colleen.
oh, and Colleen, who was our coordinator. So thank you, Colleen. She was one of the first ones to jump on the call. So this is not a one-person project. This is a huge team, and I'm just so blessed to be working with some very, very special people.
Mhm.
And I want to remind people that we always are looking to collaborate with other organizations, because what happens, we get in our own little silos and we could do so much more working with each other. So we do have a speakers bureau that we are developing and we're growing, and we want to share some of this great information that we have of our experts, even in person at local churches and libraries. I also want to recognize Linda Williams, who is on the line now, and she is on the women's board of the Field Museum of Natural History, the first African-American woman president for the Field Museum. And we're so excited, and we're looking to collaborate some things with the Field Museum later on in 2025. Other things that we've done in 2024, we had a autism awareness program that we did in collaboration with my own graduate chapter, Epsilon Upsilon, that was phenomenal. Our vice president at the time, Carl Bird, his son, sung entertainment. We did lupus awareness program with another board member who has received her kidney, by the way. She was looking for a kidney transplant. And she has received her kidney, and we're so excited about that. But Cherie, um,
Jerry.
who is a Whitney Houston honorary artist. We don't say impersonator anymore. So, and then we've done some things just this past December in collaboration with the Chicago Department of Public Health, with Diane, your church, and I forgot the name of your church, but we did two back-to-back women's health seminars.
New Life Christian Ministry of Greater Chicago.
Thank you, Diane. I couldn't remember, but thank you for that. And that was a phenomenal success. Dr. Thompson even flew in December from California for that. But we had a health panel of 6 health experts, and it was so good. we went 2 hours over just because so many people had questions. So we're always looking to engage the community. We're looking to have people that want to help our mission in terms of eliminating healthcare disparities in historically underserved communities, especially in this climate. We're going to really need to depend on each other in our own communities. And also, we are always open to taking individual donations. So on our website, please, if you like this program, it's real interesting because usually if things are boring, we see people dropping off. Everybody stayed on because of the quality of information that we are presenting today. But please, please, if you think this is valuable, if it's life-changing or potentially life-changing, go to our website, healthylivingwithavision.org, and place a donation, whatever God places on your heart, and give to help us expand on this mission. healthylivingwithavision.org, the same link that you use to register. We love individual donations and commit to a regular monthly donation. We'd love to have that so we can, keep growing this mission because it's a lot of work behind the scenes to put this on. And I thank Dr. Thompson for actually spearheading that. This is his idea. This is his brainchild. And this is an annual event that we're going to do. And we hope to continue this once or twice. After that is the follow-up. So those who really want to get on this program, we hope to, with his permission, maybe do some follow-ups, depending on the level of interest that we have to do that. Now, I have pontificated enough, and I want to get to people's questions. Any questions that you have, please, again, put them in the chat. And I am so excited to be speaking to all of you all next week, and hopefully even more as we think about our vision and how this relates, how all the dots are connected to your eye health, to your overall health. And next week, I'll give you a tease. I'm going to be engaging some other doctors and other experts that are like-minded in terms of connecting nutrition to eye health in our presentation for next week.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dr. Johnson. We'll let somebody in. Okay. So the first question that I have over here in the chat is, Dr. Thompson, can you pre-order the book?
Not at this point, but for those that are interested, drop me an email message at fearlessmd21@gmail.com. That's fearless. Maybe someone could put it in the chat. Fearlessmd, or I can put it in the chat in a few minutes. fearlessmd21@gmail.com, and I will let you know. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. The next question is, how much salt should we eat?
Yeah. So often what you see on the labels are sodium. Now, sodium chloride is not exactly the same thing, but for purposes of what the tip I gave you, it usually says sodium, and it's based on how these labels usually are what they usually utilize as their label for salt. So we use it interchangeably, but if you want to get technical in terms of the chemical and ionic structure and how much sodium there's involved truly in your food, there's a difference between the sodium and actually a sodium chloride. But the tip I gave is based on sodium, and I think it's reasonable. The American Heart Association says under 2,000. I think they've even said for people that have a history of high blood pressure or heart disease, 1,500 milligrams in a day. Now you go in and get one Burger King and fries, and you've gotten twice that, more than twice that. So most of the fast food is inherently salty, and so is restaurant food. Even vegan restaurant foods, folks. It's great if you can eat out vegan. These vegan chefs can do some wonderful things, but they salt the food because they know that's what's going to make you want more and come back. So it's best to cook your own food. But yeah, that in terms of your question, yes, it's you're just usually looking at the sodium, and that was the basis of the tip.
All right. The next question is, this morning I consumed carrots, pineapple, banana with almond milk and a small amount of orange juice. Was this a healthy choice?
Well, certainly, but I always put these things into context. And that is, if that replaced your, you know, egg McMuffin that you might get on another day, or your egg and bacon sandwich that you may make at home, or your Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, oh, you're way ahead with that, way ahead. So it's always relative to maybe what you were doing before. And if you say, could I even do better than this? As I'm really a stickler for wanting to do the best I can, then I would look at that orange juice and make sure there's no added sugar and that, you know, it has the pulp in it. And, you know, because a lot of times you get a real good sugar blast from juices, even when they don't have, you know, added high fructose corn syrup. But, you know, that's being nitpicky. When you have enough fiber in your, on the other aspects of your meal, then even the sugar from a juice isn't going to be absorbed rapidly. That's why I tell people that do juices, you know, okay, juices are fine, but make sure you get that fiber in there too, because fiber slows down that absorption of the sugar. That's why people shouldn't, unless they have diabetes, they shouldn't worry about, oh, banana has a high glycemic index, meaning that compared to some other foods, they have a standard. It kind of gets in, the sugar gets into, the glucose gets into your bloodstream faster, and you can have an insulin spike. But there's a difference. You know, a green banana is not going to do that. I don't know how many people eat green bananas, but even a yellow and polka dot, you know, a dotted banana that's more ripe and has more sugar from the breakdown, um, is not going to give you an insulin spike because there's fiber in that banana. Now, if it's totally brown and soft and mushy, I don't know. You're probably going to get a big insulin spike from that. But generally, yeah, that's a healthy meal. I would consider that a healthy meal. Just watch the labels on your juices to make sure about added chemicals and sugar.
Okay, well, thank you for that. All right, my next question is, I recently started a fiber supplement. It yields 3 grams and 11% DV per one serving size. What are your thoughts on a daily fiber supplement alongside whole food fiber?
I'd have no problems with that, especially if it works for you. There's usually a reason people will take supplemental fiber, and so if it works for you, I think that's fine. It's very limited. You can always tell exactly what the fiber is. There's not many sources of fiber. You know, it's usually that psyllium husk. It may be something else, but they usually don't have a risk. You'll know the risk because if you have too much of it, it's going to cause some stomach issues.
Yeah.
But no, that's okay. And I like the fact that you said alongside the fiber, because natural fiber is the best source of fiber. And if you
Mhm.
want to get more fiber from more natural foods, you're hanging out at the beans area and the whole grains area. That's where a lot of the fiber hangs out. Now, all plants have fiber. Your fruit has fiber and your leafy vegetables have fiber. It's just that the beans and the whole grains have even more fiber. And so, you know, that's how I would look at it, but I think that's fine as long as it works for you.
Okay. All right. The next question is, what's your take on juicing and smoothies?
Yeah. I think they're both fine. It's just if you're diabetic, your doctor's going to tell you be careful with the juices because the fiber is removed from the juice. And even though there's no added sugar because you're juicing, you have now concentrated the sugar of the plant. And so, and no matter what you're juicing, although some has more sugar than others, like grapes, and you know they have more sugar than, you know, than say blue raspberries. But when you juice, you are concentrating the sugar, and you're getting rid of that all important. I won't say all important, but that very important fiber. I
Mhm.
used to juice, and then when I realized, okay, I'm throwing away the fiber, which is so important for your gut microbiome, I went to blending. So I like the smoothie blends more so now. And still don't do all fruit, you know. Put some green in there, put some other stuff with fiber and that's not so sugary, fruit sugary in it to kind of balance it out. Because when you tack it up and you make it a smoothie, you've already processed it a little bit. So that fiber isn't going to draw as much of the toxins and sugar out of your intestines, out of your colon, as it would have when you just chew food and we never chew it down to a smoothie, right? So we get more whole fiber down there. So I think they're both fine. You want to be careful with the juice. I think the smoothies are more healthy, but you're not, you know, we're talking about relative issues here.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. The next question I have is it okay to eat fish? And if so, How many servings a week would you recommend?
Well, if you're a vegan, of course, you know the answer. And me being a vegan, I wouldn't eat fish because it has a mother. And also I do it for health reasons too, because even though fish can give you some omega-3, I know I'm at risk because I've had high cholesterol until I went plant-based. I had high cholesterol, and I don't want to do anything that tips the scale. I don't want to go back on medications. So I don't even eat fish because you get some saturated fat with fish. You also, and I know I can get my omega-3s from elsewhere, like ground flaxseed, which I love to supplement with every day, about a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. I know I can get some omega-3s also from greens. There's omega-3, about 7% of the fat in leafy green vegetables are omega-3. And so I know I got these other sources, and be, because I've had a family history of dementia, and I know omega-3 is good for the brain, I will occasionally take some. I'm not consistent, but I occasionally will take some supplemental algae-based omega-3, not the fish-based, the algae-based omega-3. So the question, back to your question, is it okay, what do you think about eating fish? It's up to you. Mediterranean diet, versus the standard American diet is healthier, and so, if that's your transitioning, fine. If your goal is to have excellence in food choices and getting the most out of life, then you're going to go easy on that fish. Because also in the fat of that fish, where we're talking the omega-3 is, are toxins, mercury, other metals, dioxins. There's a long list because our oceans and rivers and lakes are polluted. And most fish, believe it or not, comes from fish farms now. And these fish farms are these fish on top of each other, stressed, getting all kinds of chemicals added to keep them alive and from infected. And they're not as healthy as they used to be. And wild caught, well, yeah, that's nice, but wild caught's becoming scarce now because of overfishing. And you got this thing called microplastics. And that's not from all the plastic bottles. That's from the netting that they're using to fish. And that's a whole nother story, microplastics. But anyway, you have choices, you transition, you try to do the best you can.
Hmm. Okay. The next question that I have is oatmeal, steel cut, is that good or bad?
Well, steel cut's good. So is old fashioned if you don't have steel cut. So it's oat groats. That's the best because it's hard to find oat groats. I've been looking for them. Oat groats is the least processed oats you can eat, besides going and getting it right out of the ground, which nobody should do. So so it's oat groats, and that why? Because as we go down this list, we're going from high fiber to less fiber to less fiber. So we have oat groats, we have steel cut oats, we have old fashioned, which is also called rolled oats, and then you have those 1 minute or 5 minute oats. And then you have the instant oats. Now the instant oats have very little fiber and often has sugar and other chemicals. So I would stay away from the instant oats. Yeah, you can have it done in 1 minute, but you are not doing as well with the nutrition and the fiber. So I stop at the level of rolled oats and steel cut oats. And steel cut oats are even better. You got to cook them longer.
Yeah, you gotta
Works
cook.
good in an Instant Pot though. Instant Pot can turn out those oats within less than 15 minutes.
Okay. All right. I got a couple more questions for you. This one is, did you experience any cleansing type reactions while transitioning your diet?
Good. Thanks for the question. No, I didn't, because I kind of transitioned, and that's why I don't put pressure on people. A lot of people are like, oh, I got to do this overnight. No, I didn't do it overnight. I I look sometimes it's hard for me to look in the mirror because even as a physician, I only did this started this process about 12, 14 years ago. And it took a Daniel fast to pop into my head because I didn't have it in the training, my medical training. So I have to be patient with people and tolerant of maybe some what I would consider not good decisions, because I did this most of my life. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I think really gradually moving along the spectrum is good. You don't have to do this overnight, and you do what you feel comfortable with, but keep gaining knowledge. Look at pcrm.org. Look at Dr. Michael Greger's nutritionfacts.org. Build up your foundation for the decisions you make, and that makes it a lot easier.
Okay. Can you provide a source of protein recommendation?
Okay, another good all these questions are good, by the way.
They are very good.
Yes. Let me tell you this. All plants have proteins. What are proteins? Proteins are made from chains, links of amino acids. All plants have proteins. Another thing you probably didn't know, you may have had misinformation over on the internet. All plants that you would consume have all the essential proteins, essential amino acids. They all have them. It's just some have more certain amino acids than others, like valine and isoleucine and leucine. But they all have your 9 essential amino acids. So the last thing that's going to happen if you go plant-based is that you're protein deficient. It ain't going to happen. Now, you may not be full. You may feel a little different because sometimes when things are out of balance or you don't go at it quite as well, it's a harder transition. Like I know some people go from eating standard American to raw food diet. That's a big jump. Because if you go to raw food diet, you ain't having beans, which you're really filling. You aren't having a lot of grains, because those have to be cooked. So I wouldn't recommend that. So you want to understand, though, that you don't have to worry about the protein. Some of the biggest animals in the world don't eat meat. Elephants and hippos and giraffes, gorillas. I mean, so they get their protein from plants.
Mm, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Thank you for that. Let's see here. I think that these other things are just kind of questions people have kind of put in well, just little comments people have put in the chat. Is there anybody else that has any other questions that they would like to ask? Let me see here. Somebody just put something. In the interim, let me also just make sure that I got that question, Deb, and I'm going to get that in a second. But please make sure that you put on your calendars January 29th, February the 4th, and February 11th. We're doing this for 4 consecutive weeks, and then
28th,
we're
28th,
going to bring it back in. I'm sorry, say that again, Dr. Thompson.
28th, January 28th,
The
28th.
Yes, the
Yeah,
28th. I apologize. But
yeah.
we're doing it for 4 weeks, and then we're probably going to do a wrap up meeting that fifth week. So we'll talk more about that and reconvene on that probably next week or so. But next week, Dr. Johnson is going to be speaking. So please make sure you tell your family and your friends about this good information that you're getting for free. We're giving it to the community for free. Every time we go out, we have to pay for something. This is just given to you freely. So please have your friends and family to register. I will make sure I put into the chat where you can register and have people to register. I have a couple more comments. I'm going to go ahead and tell you about this. Deb wants to know, can you offer some seasoning tips? Hey, Deb.
Yeah. What I when I get asked that question, I often struggle with it because I know what I like, but that doesn't mean you'll like it. If you looked on in my cabinet, since I know I don't want to use sodium, I have a lot of herbs and spices. So I have oregano, I have thyme, I have cardamom, I have rosemary. I mean, I like all of those. Um, my wife's not a fan of all of those. At times she says, "Oh, some of these have a weird smell." So, but I like all of those. But really, it depends on what you like. Now, what can be helpful is having a source for recipes. Here are two great sources. One is Forks Over Knives. They have a Forks Over Knives app that I think may be free. No, it may be $4, but it's one time. And they're online. They have tons, thousands of recipes, and they give you the seasonings. And that's what I go to when I know I want to cook. Like I just made a batch cooked a 15 bean soup for this week. And I didn't remember the recipe. So I went Forks Over Knives, 15 bean soup. Sometimes I just go straight internet, say vegan 15 bean soup and or whatever I'm cooking. And then I get an idea of how to make this savory and taste good the way a chef would or where you may get in a restaurant. So that's how I do seasonings. But my basic thing, like my foundation is kale. I'll steam some kale in a minute or collard greens, whatever the greens, broccoli. And usually I'll do pepper, I'll do onion, salt, I'll do some not onion salt, powdered onion powder, garlic powder. I'll throw other things that give you a salty flavor but isn't really salty. If you squirt some lemon on your greens, and you throw, and that also helps you absorb the iron. Yeah, you squirt some lemon on it, put some Bragg's amino, which is kind of salty, but you're not using much. Even some balsamic vinegar. These things, you just sprinkle some of that on the greens, they come alive, especially if you squirt a little lemon on it. And I'm talking about anything green, broccoli, collard greens, whatever it is. And you don't have to use salt, pepper. Those are things. But you figure it out. Go buy some seasoning or look up recipes. Ask people what they use in their meat dishes and things like that. Meat would not taste good without seasoning. And what are the seasoning usually? Plant-based. So you can have those same similar tastes. They even have liquid smoke. I'm not recommending it, but liquid smoke can give you the smoke flavor for beans and things like that.
Donna,
Hey,
thank you.
Dr. Williams.
Hey, Muriel.